Voices for Justice in Palestine. We've been putting on events for about 15 years here in Rossmoor. The organization, if you're new to us, was founded by two Jewish residents of Rossmoor, one of whom is still with us at the back of the room, Marv Cohn. So we put on these events on the second Tuesday of the month at 4 o'clock, often here, once in a while in Peacock. You can always find out about us in the Rossmoor News, and you can get on our email list. Whether you're a member or not, we would be happy to have you join. It's only $10 a year, but if you don't want to join, you can still get on our email list, and then you'll find out about all of our events. It seems like every week we have a greater need for organizations like this that are educating the public about the horrors of Gaza and the West Bank. So I'm sure that's part of what has interested some of you in being here today, wanting to learn more about that and what you can do. So today is going to be interesting in that often we educate, but today we are educating and giving you some ways you can take part. We're going to first have our speaker, who I'll introduce momentarily. Then we're going to watch a short video about one way you can do a boycott. And then we'll eventually move to some QA, although Dov tells me she is okay with that during her presentation, as I'm sure she'll clarify. So I'm very pleased to welcome Dov Baum, and she named this talk War Crimes and Corporate Accountability, but that was probably one of many titles you could have used for what you're going to be covering today. After earning a PhD in mathematics and serving in the Israeli military, Dov was one of 50 military reservists who denounced militarization in Israel. She's a co-founder of Who Profits from the Occupation and of the Coalition of Women for Peace in Israel. She's now based here in the Bay Area. Dov is the director of the American Friends Service Committee's Action Center for Corporate Accountability, and you'll have an opportunity to make a donation to that group if you care to. Dov will talk about international support for the boycott of Israeli companies. This campaign is part of the overall BDS movement, boycott, divest, and sanctions, initiated by Palestinians as a nonviolent way to pressure Israel to comply with international law. I saw that this is the 20th year anniversary of BDS, and there was just a major development in that area. Norway's $2 trillion wealth fund, the largest in the world, is divesting from Israeli companies. So after Dov, there'll be a short video with a Bay Area pediatrician I'll tell you about after Dov finishes. So once again, let's give a nice warm welcome to Dov Baum.
Thank you so much, Bruce, and thank you. What a great audience that, you know, we have a full room here. It makes my heart warm. And it's not my first time here. It's my fourth time in Rossmoor, fourth time. The local group, the Voices group, has joined our national campaign of apartheid-free communities. I'll tell you all about it. But I really love working with you guys, so I'm very happy to be here again. Let me start the computer. Not that it's important, but you know. So, hi. So my name is Dov, or Dalit. When I visited here before, I used more Dalit. Now Dov, it doesn't matter. It's California. We get to change our names all the time. That's the way it works. I live now in the Bay Area, but most of my adult life I lived in Tel Aviv, in Palestine, Israel. As you know, Palestine, Israel, two names to the same place. Often confused. I'm an Israeli Jew myself. I have an Israeli citizenship. I'm not proud of it at all these days. See, I told you the computer, it doesn't matter. It will keep happening. Yeah, well. And my expertise, as Bruce said, is corporate accountability. So I want to start by talking to you about why that matters when it comes to Palestine and why I chose to work on this for the last 20 years. And it seems like we're going kind of around the bush, yes? We have state violence, yes? We have a country that is bombing civilians to, you know, to nothing every day for the last 2 years and every day for the last several decades, disregarding their lives, their property, their future, their rights, anything. So the problem is with the state, not with some companies. You know, why would I look at companies? So that's one of the questions for today. I'm sure you can guess some answers to that, yes? Yeah. Okay, so that's one question. Another question is many points of misinformation and disinformation about the campaigns I've been involved in, which are usually given like a general family name of BDS, boycott, divestment, and sanctions. So I want to talk to you about that, about BDS, and what is BDS, and what do people think about BDS, and what are people told about BDS, and what I think it is, and what I've experienced it to be. I've been involved in BDS since day one. Bruce started us off by saying that the movement is 20 years old, so I will tell you a little bit about these 20 years that I've been involved with this movement. And also, one of these disinformation moments about BDS is that it is anti-Semitic and anti-Israel and hateful and divisive. So why am I, an Israeli Jew, standing here talking to you about BDS as a BDS activist? That's a little confusing, yes? So that's another topic, like what is the role of Israeli Jews in the movement for Palestinian liberation, Palestinian freedom, Palestinian rights? Okay, these are the three questions I want to position out there. On the other hand, I don't know most of you. I know some of you, and I've known some of you for a long time, but I don't know most of you, and you might have completely different questions. And I want to say that all of your questions are welcome and precious, and probably serving the needs of many others in this room. So I hope we will have ample time for Q&A. I did not, sue me, I did not prepare a very organized presentation. I used to do that. But this is my fourth visit here. For people who were here before, they already saw my organized presentations. I don't think I need to work very hard to show you that there is a problem in Palestine. If any of you have been watching the news, and hopefully informed news and truthful news and not brainwashing news, you must be as horrified as I am to watch the news every day. Cry, of course, because if you have a human heart, you will sit there and feel it breaking. Of course, because we have people who are dying of hunger today, and yesterday, and the day before yesterday, and the day before. It's 2 years of the most horrific news of 70 to 100 people killed every day with impunity, for no reason but the fact that they are Palestinian living in Gaza. And if you were following the news more carefully, you would see that it is not just in Gaza. It's also in the occupied West Bank, which is an area that was occupied by Israel in 1967, and it is still held under military occupation. And in that area, communities live under military occupation. What does it mean to live under military occupation? What does it mean to live under military? So it's very hard to explain it to Americans because, you know, in Europe people had more of that experience during World War II and so on. But in the US, the closest Americans get to this experience is by watching science fiction movies You know, the invasion of aliens from out of space, and they come and they build their very weird bases, and they march around and they shoot you at will, and they make up their own rules, and you don't speak their language because it's yeah, and you can organize as a resistance movement, but it's really scary because they know everything and they can kind of read your thoughts or something because they have all these advanced surveillance tools. And they will shoot you with impunity if they find out that you're resisting. That is what living under military occupation is like. And in all of these American films, the heroes are the resistors, yes? They organize in the dark and they go out and they kill those oppressors. There's a lot of shooting in those films. Well, those resistors are the people we call terrorists in the news, yes? Just let's do the translation. Yes, this is a great question. I will repeat it. Why is it getting worse and worse and worse? So we'll get there. We'll get to your questions, and I want to say this is a very important one. Thank you. Jay is?
Jay is correct.
Jay. Why is it getting worse and worse? Maybe we haven't been doing enough. This regime that is very cruel, I'll give you some examples just from the last week or two, about the West Bank, not Gaza. There was an article in the Israeli news about the fact that just came out and I wasn't really aware of, that there are dozens and dozens of recorded cases in the last few weeks of Israeli soldiers going into Palestinian homes and businesses and just looting them. This is not in Gaza. They cannot say it's a state of war, blah, 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 Hamas, hostages. No stories like that, yes? This is not there. It's not under the Hamas regime. Never was. And there are videos. I just watched one this morning, like 2 Israeli soldiers going into a business. It's a grocery store. You can see all the nice, vegetables and fruit organized in rows, very nice, very well made. And the soldiers come in and they, throw away the table and kind of mess up things, and they walk out, and then they come back and they take the phone from the store owner. This is like a video camera in the store, yes? From the ceiling, looking down. They take the phone of the store owner and the assistant with him. They just take their phones and go. They take their phones. Not for surveillance, tracking, not for money. Stories upon story upon story. Last week, a person I know and who is a friend of many of my friends, Uda Hadalin, from El-Khir in the West Bank. It's a small community that some settlers next door were trying to get rid of for years and years and years. One of these violent settlers got into the Palestinian town with some construction equipment and tried to do what they always do, terrorize the citizens. And then he just pulled out his pistol, this settler, and started shooting to intimidate people, and one of these bullets hit Uda Hadalin in his chest and killed him. And this is a sweet man, a father of 3, a friend of so many of us, who actually was supposed to come here to the Bay Area last year to give some talks about his community and how they are trying to hang on to their land in the face of these settler attacks, and he was not allowed in because of the administration here. He had a visa and everything. They stopped him in SFO airport. A sweet, sweet, non-violent man was shot. But that's not even the most shocking of it. The most shocking of it is what happened next. The soldiers arrived, and the murderer, and we have videos of the murder. There are videos you can watch of the murder as it happened. The murderer was pointing at some Palestinians from the village to the soldiers who picked them up. And in the next few days, more men from this small town were arrested by the military and taken away. They are still held in prison for nothing, no charges, nothing. While the shooter, because of international pressure, was taken into the Israeli court, where the judge said, well, it seems like he was really in a difficult situation because look, 17 of the men in the village are in prison. There must have been some reason why he was shooting. And she sent him back home, free, and he is terrorizing the village still every day. Another one that wasn't released still from captivity is the body of Uda Hadalin himself. It took them days and days and days. They held the body captive. They wouldn't release the body. Until the women of the village went on a hunger strike because they wanted to bury him. I'm telling you this one story because I happen to know people who know this man so well and love him. And so I was, I heard this story, but this is just one story of many, of extreme injustice. Extreme injustice that happens to millions of people for decades. Yeah, we'll have time. So I want to say, you have probably heard horrible stories as well. And there are all these questions, how do we let that happen? How does it get worse, as Jay says, all the time? And how do we get to a point of a genocide when we estimate over 100,000 people killed in the last 2 years in Gaza and entire cities razed to the ground systematically? So it's not even clear how are people going to continue living there? How are they going to be rehabilitated, supported? How is it going to happen? People always say that war is very expensive. Because really, guns and bombs, they're very expensive. But can you imagine how expensive it is to actually heal from that? What if we were to say, yeah, the US is giving Israel all of these weapons for free. For free. And not just guns and bombs and surveillance equipment, but also the bulldozers that it takes to bulldoze these cities, one by one. They pay demolition contractors by the house or by the day. Israeli demolition contractors go into Gaza, and their job is to destroy house after house after house. They already destroyed all the hospitals, all the universities, all the mosques, Now they're going neighborhood by neighborhood. They destroyed, 2 cities are already razed to the ground. They look like the moon. How much would it cost to rebuild? Or even to just move away all these, garbage so they can start rebuilding? How much would it cost to give medical care for life to millions of people? I mean, hundreds of thousands who were injured, and millions who suffer irreparable psychological damage. How much would it take to take care of children who lost their limbs, and we're talking about many, many, many thousands of them, for life, who need to grow, and therefore they need new prosthetics every year because they keep growing. Can you imagine? How much would that cost? So the US is giving Israel all these weapons for free. Will the US also pay for all that rehabilitation? No. Will Israel pay for it? Israel hasn't paid for anything. For anything. The US is paying for the destruction. So here I am. 20 years ago, I was an activist, an Israeli peace activist, anti-occupation activist. Long process to get there, to unlearn Zionism, unlearn some of what I thought, or where I thought I lived. And I was active in a fantastic group called the Coalition of Women for Peace. Doesn't exist anymore. It was a coalition of Palestinian and Israeli women inside Israel. And we were doing a lot of protests. It was during the time of the Second Intifada, Second Palestinian Uprising, which was an amazing show of a popular resistance on the Palestinian side. And then in 2005, that's 20 years ago, came out the call from Palestinian civil society for boycott, divestment, and sanctions. This was a call that was signed on by, at first, 170 different organizations, including the entirety of Palestinian civil society, women's organizations, youth organizations, socialist organizations, religious organizations, labor organizations, organizations that didn't share the same vision and many times didn't agree with each other on anything. But they could agree on some very basic call for action. And the basic call for action was based on the understanding that the occupation sustains itself thanks to immense support from the outside. We're asking people of conscience around the world to do what they can to stop that support. So, they're not asking us to stop the occupation. They're not asking us to fight the Israeli military. They are not asking us to imprison those these criminals. They're not. I mean, it would be great if we did. But they're not asking us to do that. They're asking us to stop supporting it. I mean, listen to that. This is such a minimalist request. It goes along the lines of first do no harm. Just, if you can, don't support this. Because your support is making it worse. It's getting worse, it's getting worse. So what does it mean not to support it? So they give some examples of different actions that people can take. Boycott, divestment, and sanctions. So let me say a word about each. Boycott is withdrawing our cooperation as consumers. Okay? And we can ask ourselves what would that look like, and we have one example today of a consumer boycott that we will talk about. And I'll give you a couple more examples too. Divestment is the opposite of investment. It means, where are you invested in it? Maybe withdraw that investment. An investment can be an investment in time or in, all sorts of things. Withdrawing your investment, it can also be monetary investment. And that's where I come in, that's my expertise. That's what I've learned to do over the last 20 years to help divestment, and I will tell you a lot more about that. That's my expertise. I always say that BDS without divestment is just... I didn't say that. That's my pet topic. And S, sanctions, refers to state-level actions. So the sanctions, it's a very general word. Not all sanctions are non-violent. I work with the American Friends Service Committee. That's a Quaker organization, and we are pacifist. We do not support violent sanctions, of course. We also don't support incarceration. We don't support policing. We don't support... But a sanction that we do advocate for, of course, is the end of US military aid to Israel. This is a state-level sanction, and we just recently heard a statement by the German government that they will stop providing Israel with military supplies, and that is fantastic. Yeah. That is fantastic, because all throughout the genocide, thank you, yes, all throughout the genocide until now, they have been supplying Israel with weapons. And that was a big support. Okay, so this is BDS. The call came out. I was active in this Israeli organization, the Coalition of Women for Peace. Remember, it was not a Jewish organization. It was Jewish-Palestinian Together Women for Peace. Inside the state of Israel, there is a minority, a large minority of Palestinians inside the state of Israel. And we were like, what are we going to do with that? You know, we cannot boycott ourselves. And the answer was, let's do what we are asked to do. We are asked to track what we can do. We are asked to see where our lines of accountability are and activate them. You know, where you see your own connection to this is not a place of shame. It's not a place of paralysis. You know, if you find out, for example, that you are shopping in Trader Joe's, by chance, maybe you're shopping in Trader Joe's, and Trader Joe's maybe is selling Israeli products, and maybe even some of them are made in illegal settlements. So one reaction could be, oh, I love Trader Joe's, I don't want to stop shopping there, so I just don't want to know anything. Another option is, oh, I hate Trader Joe's, I will never shop there again. think, but both of these examples are examples of actions that have no impact. You can decide where you shop or what you shop for, it's all perfectly okay. But we are called to make an impact. The call for BDS is a call for activism, and activism is always collective, it's not individual. It's not about what you buy or where you put your money or do you pay your taxes. All of these are very important concerns, and you need to align your economic activity with your morals and values. I totally support that. It's good for your mental health. But it's not enough. What we are really asked to do is to work with others. And to work with others means, maybe I will organize a group of five people and we will talk to the store manager or send a letter to the management of Trader Joe's saying, we don't want to see those products and this is why. That's where you're organizing. This is when you're doing BDS, okay? Let me share with you some stuff on the internet because there is a lot of good stuff over there, and I'll show some resources and then I'll talk some more and then we'll pause, okay? That's the plan. So for that I need to convince the computer to work with me. Okay, it's looking good. It's promising, this circling thing. So over the last 14 years, I'm working with the American Friends Service Committee, and I lead a department called the Action Center for Corporate Accountability. And what we do is support BDS campaigns with research, and especially with corporate research. Now, I started out by asking why corporations, and the answer is that states are really not very movable. I don't know if you noticed. And they're all swayed by money interests. So we thought, oh, let's start where we can move stuff. And apparently corporations, despite being very big, very powerful, very rich, they are chicken shit. They care about nothing but their bottom line. They have no values. If you threaten in any way, somehow, their future bottom line, create some kind of credible risk, they fall very quickly. And over the years, I've participated in many dozens of campaigns that showed that we can win corporate campaigns. And when we win corporate campaigns, we show two things. One, that despite the fact that we are working for Palestinian rights, we can win something. That already blows people's minds. Because, of course, we haven't been on the winning side for a long time. And secondly, if we can win this, more people join because people like to be part of something that's working. They don't waste their time, yes? And then more such campaigns can win, and then we create a new standard for corporate accountability on Palestine, and that in itself has a political impact because corporations have political power. I said that very quickly, I know, but we'll go back to that if you want. So let me show you some of these online resources I promised. This is the most important one, bdsmovement.net. bdsmovement.net, I can write it down for you later, all these resources. This is the website of that coalition that came out with a call for action 20 years ago. They're celebrating 20 years. There's a lot of good stuff here on this website, including guidelines. Very principled guidelines to the movement. The movement is not top-down. The movement is not an organization. The movement is not somebody who, tells you what to do. If any of you were activists, you know that's not how it works. It's a very loose network of many initiatives, of many people around the world, all around the world, that do different things, that probably don't agree with each other on anything. But there is the Palestinian coalition who lives under occupation in Palestine and represents hundreds of Palestinian organizations that came together and created some guidelines. Guidelines, what is boycottable, what isn't. Now, it doesn't mean that everybody will know these guidelines or that everybody will act according to these guidelines, but these guidelines say a lot of things. For example, individuals are usually not boycottable. Corporations, institutions are. That's why I'm here as an individual Israeli who actually spent some time in the Israeli military in my sordid past, and I can do this work. Individuals are not boycottable. Unless they are themselves, war criminals, Bibi Netanyahu, then of course. Then there are institutions. There are many other such guidelines here. One of the good tools here that you can find is guidelines for cultural and academic boycotts. What does it mean to boycott Israeli academia, and why? Why do we ask you to boycott Israeli academia? What about Israeli dance troupes that come to perform in the Bay Area? Are they boycottable, and when? And if they are, why? Okay? The reason why they are boycottable is not what you think it is. It's not because anything Israeli is boycottable. That is not the case. It really is about institutional collaboration with oppression. And it's very principled, which I love, of course. I love that. Another good resource here is explaining consumer boycotts. I don't have it on the screen, but there is a good diagram there that says, please, people, there is this obsession with lists. Everybody wants to go to the grocery store with a list of what to buy and what not to buy. There are no lists. We don't want you to use lists. We want you to organize. So if there is a campaign, we ask you to join a campaign, because the movement wants to be impactful. We want to change policy, even if it is the small policy of that one grocery store somewhere. So rather than go wide and look for more and more and more things we can boycott, some people really love that, we are trying to consolidate and say today we are focused on 5 targets. I can tell you what they are. TEVA, we will hear about TEVA later today. That's a little film that you're going to watch. Chevron, Texaco and Chevron, the same company. Okay? I can show you some more. But around us, these are some big ones, yes? We also have campaigns looking at the tech companies, but still not calling for a boycott of them. I can tell you about them as well. So that's one of the principles of BDS. Other resources online. Let's see if it will wake up. Wake up! Wake up! Wake up! Wake up! Okay, it's not waking up. Yay! Okay, this is my favorite resource because, of course, my team puts it together. You can find it on AFSC, that's our organization, American Friends Service Committee, .org/divest. And this is a resource for divestment. And what you can find here is a whole lot of tools that explain what is divestment. And if you remember the students' movement, what's happening with that? Okay, remember the encampments where students took over their campuses and demanded that their universities divested? And many of them didn't get it. Do you know that there is one university in the United States that actually divested in full? Which university is that? Who knows? One university that divested in full.
Notre Dame.
San Francisco State University. Yeah. And then there are calls on other institutions to divest. Cities, counties. Do you know cities that divested? Anybody knows of a city that divested in the last 2 years? Richmond, California, fantastic. Richmond, California. Another city that divested. City of Alameda in the Bay. City of Alameda, yes.
Everything you say is just spot on. But I want to tell you when this all started about 20 years ago.
I think some people cannot hear you.
Oh.
But I would ask you not to make a big statement,
No,
but
it's
really
not a
just
big
to shout the
statement.
name because we'll have a Q&A.
No. I went to a group.
You want to wait?
1 second.
It's just a quick question that I want you to
Say it to the mic because people need to hear you.
Okay. So the quick question is that when I first started looking into this, and it is nearly 20 years.
What's your name?
Christine.
Hi, Christine.
Hi. There was a meeting here in Rossmoor. The group is called MECOR. And the whole thing that they preached is about being self-loathing Jews. And they went on and on and on about that. So a lot of people, even rabbis and cantors, are saying, we walk a tightrope in Rossmoor. I'm glad you're shaking your head. And I think it's because we have a large population, but anyway, that is a big deal, and you're afraid, even if you support what you're saying, they kept preaching and preaching and preaching. Self-loathing Jews.
Self-loathing.
I never heard of such a thing.
I know, it is terrible. I have never heard of such a thing as well, and therefore it's not a thing in my world. I believe in love. I believe in activism from love. Let's wait for a moment. I really want to talk about divestment, and we will get there. I know there's a lot waiting to happen here.
Did Albany divest?
Albany, no. But it should. So I just want to say about self-loathing, it's not a thing. I haven't heard of it. I'm not self-loathing. I don't think you can be an activist from a stance of self-loathing. I think you can only do it from a stance of love and caring. So let's go back to the cities. I wanted to show you some online things before the computer dies. So I will just scroll down and show you what's here. Here is what it means to divest. And you can read more about it. Here are the companies to divest from. Here they are. We have the list and we keep it up to date, and it's a tremendous... What, you want to memorize it? I want to tell you how to memorize it. afsc.org/divest. It's all there, and we can give it to you later. I'll write it down for you. So you have the list here. It's a long list, but it's not very long. And then you have some online webinars where you can learn more about it and watch them. They are all here. You just click on it and you can watch a whole video about how to divest in universities, in cities. And then the most fun part is the end of this page, which is called Divestment Achievements. And we try to keep it up to date. These are all the victories. We want to show that you can win this. So the most recent is up top. Iowa City in Iowa divested.
Wow.
Iowa. Shame on Berkeley. Iowa. I mean, seriously, talk about a red state. So just the same day, Iowa City and City of Medford in Massachusetts divested. And, you know, Pride parades divested. This is the university in the UK, the Norwegian Pension Fund, California Institute of the Arts. I said only one university, but there are other universities here.
University of San Francisco, not San Francisco State.
No, San Francisco State is the one university that divested in full. There are other universities here that have partial divestment. You can read exactly what they divested from. So University of San Francisco is one, and so on. But San Francisco State, here is Alameda County divested. The county! Belfast, Maine. Mendocino County. So you can read it and be proud of the places that you know. Where is Texas? Austin Pride. So it's a Pride parade divested. Not a city. City of Alameda, and so on. So you can read it and enjoy it. One of the reasons we keep this list here is to show that you can win this, but also to show that this win can take many different formats and faces, and it can look very differently from one place to another. So if you're associated with any institution, let's say a union, let's say a church, let's say a synagogue, a mosque, let's say any kind of endowment or pension fund, or city or county, or any kind of institution that might have a savings account, or yourselves, you can divest. And we can help you to do it. It's not simple. It's not always easy. But it's worthwhile doing, because this is what Palestinians are asking us to do. And the point of this divestment is not you selling your shares in Caterpillar, because Caterpillar bulldozers have been destroying all these houses and cities around the Gaza Strip, which they have. They work very closely with the Israeli military. It's you divesting from Caterpillar, and cities and counties and universities and everybody divesting from Caterpillar, so much so that it becomes the new normal, that people of conscience do not invest in Caterpillar. This is when it has an impact. And we can contribute towards that new norm. I see a hand, is it about divestment?
Yeah.
Okay, so we need a mic over there. I'm sorry this takes a moment, but I see two hands.
Yeah, I've heard about the call for I guess cities and counties to divest from Israel bonds, and does that count into what you're talking about?
Fabulous question, yes. So divestment is the same. The divestment is, please do not invest in the destruction of the Palestinian people, in its repression, in its oppression. Sometimes the language we use is, please do not invest in Israeli apartheid, Israeli genocide, and Israeli illegal occupation. These are the things we want you to divest from. What does this look like? It looks like, please don't invest in some of the Israeli companies that are building settlements and destroying homes and all that. That's obvious, that's easy. But also, please do not invest in American companies that are directly contributing to the same thing, like weapons companies, or Caterpillar, or Palantir. Palantir is the devil. Palantir is a mass surveillance company that is supporting ICE and ICE deportations and policing, predictive policing. They are going to control your life sooner than you think they are, if they're not already. And they are also responsible for the mass genocide in Gaza. One second, I see your hand. I just want to not forget what I'm saying. Yeah. So this is another whole category of American companies. And then there are international companies, very small number of them, but there are some international companies that are involved. German companies, one Korean company. And finally, of course, do not invest in Israel bonds. Israel bonds are Israel war bonds. Israel has been issuing bonds over the last 2 years in order to raise funds for its war effort. This is money that goes right into the military, and it's presented by Israel bonds themselves. If you go into their website, they're saying, thank you for supporting our war effort. So of course, don't invest in. And unfortunately, in the US, there are localities, counties, and states that have invested during the last 2 years tremendous amount of money, millions of dollars in Israel bonds as a show of support for Israel. It's a political act. And these are junk bonds. It's much, much, much more profitable to buy US Treasury bonds, who are also not that great. But why buy Israel bonds? It's a political act of support for Israel and what Israel does, and therefore, of course, we ask not to invest in Israel bonds. I just want to add one more word about that. If you happen to have Israel bonds, some people got it as a present, some people bought it when they were clueless. I mean, I come from Israel, I grew up a Zionist, I know exactly what it means. You can't sell them. You're stuck with them. So if it has a maturation date of 30 years, you're stuck with them for 30 years. Just that you know. Okay, this hand.
Hi. Thank you for coming. My name is Barry. Thank you for coming. And I came here to hear what you had to say, and I've heard. What I'm not hearing, yet, and I hope it's going to come, is that Israel has a lot of crime to account for. The Israeli government and the military, absolutely. What I'm not hearing about boycotting and punishing countries that are supporting Hamas. Qatar, Turkey. We're not talking about an enemy of the Gazans, Hamas. Hamas can retreat. They can surrender. They can give up the hostages. What I don't hear about in these groups is yes, I want the Gazans to have a good life. I do, and I feel horrible at what's happening. But what I don't hear, how are we going to give Israeli people, Israelis, a sense of security where they live?
Okay, Barry, I want to take this question, which is an important one, because you are speaking for the majority of people in this country. and I want to, if you may, let me postpone it to the Q&A because it's not technical about these resources. I want to finish showing the resources, and I promise you, we will talk about this. So just a couple more online resources. Okay, this is about divestment though. I don't want to start the Q&A.
This is a divestment question. If many of us are on public pensions, defined benefit public pensions, and we have no control over how our pension funds are invested, and so what strategies would you
Thank you. Yes. So as I said, when we ask a city to divest, even in some cases, even cities cannot control their own investments. And I don't know if you know that. Sometimes they're only invested through some state agency and they don't have any control. Even cities sometimes don't control their own investments. Some institutions, universities, they told the students, you know, we can't divest. We're invested in these huge pooled funds. We don't manage them and we don't know what to do. What do you want from us? The same was true when people were asked to divest from fossil fuel or divest from nuclear weapons or any kind of divestment campaign. What happens is that in the investment community, investment world around us, there are some designated tools of investment that may be fossil fuel free, that are offered in the market. But the market will not offer you apartheid-free investment unless there is a demand for it. So our job is to tell you, if you control your own investment, if you have direct investment, of course you can sell and buy something else, yes? Or maybe promise not to buy any more of that. That's in the case of Israel bonds. That's what we're asking. In the case of mutual funds, pooled funds, big complicated instruments of investment where you think you might not have an alternative, the ask is very simple. Commit to it. And that's what this website explains, the one I showed you before, not this one, the one that says divest. That divestment is really about commitment to a policy. So we want individuals and institutions to say, I will do to the best of my ability to withdraw my investment in anything like that. To the best of my ability, and I will keep checking, because the more individuals and institutions commit to that, the more such alternative instruments will appear in the market, because, you know, demand creates supply. This is capitalism. So in the case of cities that maybe are not invested directly in anything, the city can send a letter to the agency that manages its investment and say, we decided that we wanted this kind of investment, and see what you can, and in a year time we'll report back to the public. Now it sounds a little, I mean, I work a lot with young activists. Young activists are very eager. They think that if their city divested, the genocide will end tomorrow. But we've been around for longer and we've been active for many, many years. And we know that sometimes having those symbolic resolutions and those public commitments has an impact that is much faster than moving the money. It's normalizing a certain kind of ask. If we're asking the US government to stop investing in Israeli weapons and stop investing in the genocide, we should start doing it ourselves. So we start with ourselves, with our small circles. We go to our cities, our towns, our faith communities, bigger and bigger circles. And we go to our representatives and we say, you should do the same. So it's a moral call. I will pause for a moment with the questions because I can see people are, 5 minutes, oh my goodness. That was not a hand for a question, it was a warning. I'll show you a couple more resources and then we'll pause and watch the video. So I am jumping to a couple of resources I want you to know about. One is apartheid-free communities. This is the website, apartheid-free.org. And this is a campaign, as I said, Voices for, what is the name of the local group? Voices for Justice in Palestine, here in Rossmoor, have signed on. There are about 500 communities all around the US that signed on. And this is a pledge. In any community or business or group, not individuals, this is not for individuals, but any group or organization or even a business can sign on to this pledge. And this is exactly what I was talking about. Here is the pledge. We affirm our commitment to freedom, justice, and equality. We oppose all forms of racism, bigotry, discrimination, oppression. We declare ourselves an apartheid-free community, and therefore we pledge to join others in working to end all support to Israel's apartheid regime, settler colonialism, and military occupation. It's a pledge, it's a symbolic pledge. I know many individuals want to sign it themselves. It's not for individuals, because we want to organize, we want to build an anti-apartheid movement. And that means working with others. So if you have a small group, you can call yourself something. If you have a small community, if you have a business, you can sign on. So that's one action that I want to recommend. And another one I already mentioned, Boycott Chevron. You can find this webpage online, boycottchevron.info, I-F-O, boycottchevron.info. A lot of information here. This is a global campaign. Chevron, of course, is a huge polluter. It's the largest polluter of California, as you well know, responsible for the fires in LA. Now they're being sued for the damages in the fires in LA. But it's also, I don't know if you know that, a big profiteer from Israeli apartheid and occupation, because they drill for oil, not oil, for gas, for fossil gas in the Mediterranean, just close to the border between Israel and Gaza in the Mediterranean. And creating a tremendous amount of income for the Israeli state, but also creating a lot of direct impact on people on the ground because of the security concerns for these platforms. And you can read more about it here. We're asking them to divest from the occupation. And as long as they don't divest, we boycott them. So if you can choose where you buy your gas, please avoid Chevron and Texaco. And if you want to do more, there are all these ideas. You can send a letter to the CEO. You can join the campaign as a group. You can try and advocate with the local gas station owner that is just a franchisee of Chevron to join the campaign. We have several of those around the country. Gas station owners that joined the campaign and told Chevron, we don't want you to keep doing this work. So this is another example. And last but not least, I'll show you our flagship resource. This is called Investigate. It's also published by my team. Investigate.info, you can find it online very easily, investigate.info. This is a tool for investors. You can use this as a database to look for specific investments, to scan mutual funds. So if you have, let's say, an investment consultant or manager that you work with, you can send them this link. They can use it as a tool for helping you navigate your investments. We have hundreds of pages here about different companies. You can search for a certain company and find out everything that we know about it. If you're curious what we know about Caterpillar, you just put here Caterpillar and click on it, and you see everything that we know about Caterpillar. It's as simple as that. So I will pause here. I have a lot more to tell you, and I will pass it to our featured campaign.
So we'll be hearing more from Dov in a little while. So our little interlude here, we're going to see a short video. Rick Sterling did the interview, and Rich here helped edit it. It's a Bay Area pediatrician, Dr. Imtiaz Ghori, will be describing the education and boycott campaign specifically against Israel's TEVA pharmaceuticals. And she's going to be discussing the importance of this and how people can easily participate. And we have at the back of the room, I'm not sure, are there still some left, postcards?
Yes.
So you'll find at the back of the room, there's a flyer about the TEVA boycott, and then there are some postcards that look like this that basically say, we don't want I don't want my medicine coming from TEVA, and that's what the video will be talking about. The postcards are, some of them are do not have an address placed on the front, but you can just take this and turn it like a postcard and put in the address of your pharmacy and your return address and send it off. And the message is on the other side. So, how are we counting? Okay, great.
This is a short 6-minute video where a pediatrician based here in Contra Costa County explains how, as an individual, you can be part of the boycott of TEVA Pharmaceuticals, which is Israel's largest pharmaceutical firm.
Hello, my name is Imtiaz Ghori. I'm a pediatrician in Contra Costa County, and I'd like to speak to you about the Boycott TEVA campaign. So this is a campaign that's been taken on by Healthcare Workers for Palestine to boycott TEVA Pharmaceuticals. It's also a target of the BDS campaign. The reason this has been taken up by Healthcare Workers for Palestine and also a BDS target is because TEVA Pharmaceuticals is Israel's largest company. They are a huge source of revenue for Israel, and therefore they directly are contributing to occupation, apartheid, the genocide. And 60% of their market is in the United States. So this can make a huge difference if enough people boycott. And we're doing this boycott campaign because 22 months in, governments have done very little to nothing, and so it's up to people everywhere to take whatever steps they can, even if it seems small. Every little bit helps. And boycott campaigns have been shown to be successful. The worldwide boycott campaign for South Africa had a significant, huge part to play in ending apartheid in South Africa. So if enough people and enough companies are targeted, hopefully we can make some change together. So TEVA Pharmaceuticals, like I said, it is one of Israel's largest companies. They produce a lot of medications, a lot of generic medications. So this would be anything from blood pressure medications like losartan, medications like fluoxetine, methylphenidate, levothyroxine for hypothyroidism. So there's a long list of medications that they produce. This boycott is relatively easy because they produce generic medications. There is nearly always a substitute, another generic substitute at the same cost available. And you have the right as a patient to request, what company, if you want to avoid a certain company or not. So you have the right to ask for that. And one important point about this boycott campaign is that if there is an alternative, because we obviously don't want people not taking their necessary medications. So the whole, that's an important point to always say, if there is an alternative. There are a number of different ways you can do this boycott. You can directly ask your pharmacist and just let them know that you would like them to put a note in your chart that you want to avoid TEVA Pharmaceuticals if there is an alternative available due to their complicity in apartheid, occupation, genocide, whatever you're comfortable saying. You can also ask your physician or your nurse practitioner to make a note of that when they're doing your prescriptions. As a prescriber, I can't just say don't prescribe TEVA, but if a patient asks me that they would to avoid TEVA pharmaceuticals, I can put a note on the prescription per patient request. They would like to avoid TEVA pharmaceuticals if an alternative is available. So that is another way to do it. A third option is that we have pre-printed postcards available, and you can just send that to your physician or nurse practitioner or your pharmacist, and they can make a note of that. You know, people have been calling and have been, for the most part, pretty successful. Sometimes pharmacists will ask, like, oh, I think your doctor needs to do this, but for the most part, pharmacists will make a note of that, sometimes in the allergy sections at some point, another place in your chart. You know, it's a relative, you know, as I said, it's relatively easy because you're not, you know, because it is a generic, there are always, pretty much always alternatives available. So hopefully this information is useful. There's flyers available too, with a QR code which can give you more information. There's an Instagram page, but there's also videos where, you know, keep showing people like with a script and, you know, showing how they talk to their pharmacist about it. So there's a lot of information out there. And so I thank you very much for listening, and I hope this has been useful to you, and I hope you can take part in this campaign and tell your friends so more and more people can join this campaign, and we can hopefully start to make more of a difference. Thank you.
The postcard campaign that I talked about earlier, the postcard says, "Dear healthcare provider, I'm unable to take medications from TEVA Pharmaceuticals due to their involvement in ethnic cleansing and apartheid. Please add a note to my chart saying no TEVA's Pharmaceuticals unless there's no alternative." And then you put your name and your date of birth. So if you don't get a postcard here, you can just get one at home and fill it out, send it to your pharmacy with that information, and if you forget what to say, you can contact me. I sent out the email for this meeting last week, and it's a 61-cent stamp is what's needed for a postcard these days. Yeah, can you believe it? But we're not having any inflation in this country. So, yes. Yeah. No.
Hey guys, hi, I'm Nora. I'm a pharmacist, so just some tips for you. Number one, even though notes are put in charts and on, you know, the profile, you know, there's many employees working on a prescription. So never leave the pharmacy without looking and asking, what manufacturer did I get? Because once you leave, you're gone, it's yours. So just remember that. People make mistakes in pharmacies. Number two, remember they may have to special order it. So don't go at the last minute, ooh, I have no medicine in my bottle, I need it now. They may not have it, so give the pharmacy 4 days. It probably will come in a day or so, but give them 4 days to special order it for you. Also, if you are at Kaiser and you do mail order, then know that mail order will not special order, so you have to go to your local pharmacy.
Thanks, Nora. We're going to be, as you can see here, Victoria's passing out postcards. Raise your hand if you want one. And we're going to be passing the basket in a moment, and anything we collect at this time will be given to Dov's organization of the American Friends Services Committee's Action Center for Corporate Accountability. So I encourage you to give generously. And once again, Dov Baum.
I want to add, since so graciously you're passing the basket, I want to say that the American Friends Service Committee is a large organization, and it has been working in Gaza since 1948. We have staff in Gaza now. We've been running for their lives, who've been this entire time, these 2 years of genocide, they've been trying to support others. We have a humanitarian project of bringing in anything from food to sanitary pads to a baby formula to candy for children, organizing sports days for children because sometimes you cannot bring the supplies in. And I cannot even begin to tell you how proud I am of my colleagues inside Gaza. They're suffering from hunger, they're trying to survive, they lost family members, they're afraid for their lives. Nobody is safe in Gaza. Even if you have the budget of a large American organization behind you, there's no food to buy in the markets. No food to buy. So another colleague of mine who is from Gaza but has left Gaza just before October 7 because he came for a speaking tour here, and his entire family is there, and then he couldn't go back in, and he lives now outside of Gaza. Last week lost his sister and her 2 daughters and husband were all killed in a bombing. So I just want to say that, and this is the beginning of an answer to the question that I said we'll get here. We are sold the story that there are 2 sides here, Israel and Palestine. And they hate each other forever, they are all committing atrocities, why can't they just get along? That's a story they are telling us in order to make us not do anything. There really are 2 sides here, and that's the side of humanity and justice and equality and peace and love, and the side of the profiteers that are usually not individuals. Individuals are just confused and misaligned. There's a lot of propaganda out there, but the profiteers are of different types. They can be the weapons companies, or they can be Benjamin Netanyahu trying to avoid a prison sentence in Israel so he cannot get out of Gaza. The Hamas has offered several deals that included the entire release of all the hostages, despite what you hear in mainstream media, which were rejected by Israel. And I'm not a Hamas supporter. I'm a lesbian, feminist Jew. How can I be a Hamas supporter? It makes no sense, you know? And my friends in Gaza are not Hamas supporters. And I think many of the population in Gaza now is not a Hamas supporter because it was never a very democratic regime ever since they got elected democratically. But it really doesn't matter. Some crimes are just beyond the pale of what we should allow as human beings. It doesn't matter. And when people start analyzing things, it's a justification. And I read something really powerful the other day from one of my friends in Israel, and she said, there is no genocide without a justification system for the genocide. There is no such thing. It's part of the system of a genocide. You cannot do a genocide without this entire system justifying it. And at some point you have to drop the nonsense and just say hundreds of thousands of people. At least 100,000 people were killed. We don't know how many are buried under the rubble. So many thousands of children killed. Hundreds of children were born and died over the last 2 years, never saw one day in Gaza. Millions are in hunger and suffering and afraid for their lives every night. They cannot sleep, they cannot eat. It's not a war crime, it's a crime against humanity, it's a Holocaust. And if I learned anything from my Jewish heritage and Jewish history, is that some things are we just have to stop it. And I have many friends in Israel that are asking to stop it, and are fighting against the Netanyahu regime and the regime of these fundamentalist settlers who think God is with them, but this is not my God. And every day they're out there with signs and they're getting beaten by the police, and I'm sure that a similar thing can happen here. I can see, and it has happened here in the past, how a regime in this country can use something that happens, I don't know, and invade Mexico in order to, what, justify something. And increase the profits of weapons companies that are skyrocketing, I don't know. It has happened. And all of you will be out in the street protesting, all of you. And if I were in another country and I would look at you and I'll be proud of you, and it will not be because I hate America. So it's not about hatred. It's about shared values of us as human beings. And because we see Palestinians as full human beings. And yes, there are still about 20 Israeli hostages still suffering from the same ill treatment and hunger and kept somewhere by Hamas. Maybe they were killed already, we don't know. And there are thousands of Palestinian hostages held by Israel, thousands, and tortured, and in appalling state, and dozens that were killed in hostage. And you know what? It's not that we get to choose which one of them we support. We want everybody to be treated with respect and dignity. We want all criminals to be kept away from us so we can be safe from them. I'm not saying captivity because I don't believe in that. And we want and can to live all together in peace and equality. It's just that it's very hard to do when you're killing thousands of people. You know, you're making that shared vision of just peace further away from us, maybe another generation or two. It's heartbreaking. So, I don't know, that's the best I can do. I'm so sorry. And I want to invite more questions. I see your hand, Victoria, yes.
Yes, I wanted to invite more questions as well. So are there questions?
And let's collect a few and see where it goes. And I would ask you to go to the point.
Can you say something about what the economy of Israel is like? I mean, what supports the government? What industries? How their budget is?
Do you want several questions?
Yeah, let's collect 2 or 3.
Okay, good.
Would you comment on...
And please say your names.
My name is Bob. Okay,
Hi,
would
Bob.
you comment on Iran as part of the problem too, and also perhaps Syria?
Okay.
I think that you're looking at only one part of the problem. We need a solution, and I'm on your side too.
Okay, that's the second question. Are there
These are some
questions
big
over
questions,
here?
people.
All right.
Well, I wanted to respond. Oh, what?
Brief.
Brief. Okay, well, I just want to respond to a person I happen to know here who asked about Hamas and why we're not vilifying, doing the same thing. And what I would say is, you know, there is killing going on. And, you know, the United States, America, had a revolution. And we got free from Great Britain and got our own, you know, ability to not be under as a colony of theirs. And people were killed at that time. But would you say that we were evil or bad because we killed Great Britain when they came over and tried to keep, in other words, I'm talking about settler colonialism. And I'm just trying to say, when they came over and tried to keep us under their control, and we didn't want to be under their control, after a long enough time, people want freedom. Not that Hamas had any, you know, that was good what they did, but it's understandable, and it's far less in scale than anything that's, you know, Israel was mowing the lawn, killing them for decades and decades.
So let's take a pause because these are some huge questions, and then we'll collect and let more people speak if it's okay. I will also try to be brief. You know, we have a lot of voices in the room. I'll start with the last comment. After October 7, I mean, even to this day, many voices in Israeli society really reject the idea that this is a genocide. Even though Israel's largest human rights organization and most prominent one, B'Tselem, and also Physicians for Human Rights in Israel, which is another Israeli organization, came out with very extensive legal reports showing why it is a genocide. So it's not just Palestinians saying that, or international human rights organizations such as Amnesty and Human Rights Watch. It's also the Israeli human rights organizations that are very clear, and I think it's very clear to anyone who is following it, that this is genocide. And yet people find it very hard to call what Israel is doing a genocide, because they feel it is a kind of betrayal of our camp, of who we are. And after October 7, I heard many Palestinian voices that actually said that this is all Israeli propaganda, and there was a lot of propaganda, and there was a lot of disinformation, but also there was a lot of facts there. There were atrocities committed against people and civilians and women and children, of course. We saw it, there were videos. So I actually want to think of it in a positive way. The fact that people find it so hard to believe that their own side is committing atrocities is a good sign. It could have been much worse when they are proud of these atrocities, and that also happens sometimes. But the fact that they are unable to see that is a good thing. It means that we're still all part of the same human community, and we understand that there are some rules, and we don't think of ourselves as breaking those rules. But the truth of the matter is that humanity is capable of awful things. All humans are capable of awful things, and we see it again and again. And it's not because they're evil, it's because they are fully human. And it's terrible. And just like Israelis are fully human, and Palestinians are fully human, Germans during World War II were fully human, and it's awful. It's awful. It's really awful. I'll tell you one story about it. Many years ago, I was 12 in Israel, living in an upper middle class community. I read a book by Alan Paton, Cry Beloved, My Beloved Country. You know that. It's about South Africa. And Alan Paton is a white man, and he was telling about his history, about his story, and how he didn't know until his awakening and finding out that where he lived was an apartheid state. And I was 12, and you know how 12-year-old girls? I was so taken by that, and I was like, how can it be? How can you live in such a place and not know that this is what's happening? And we lived in a duplex, and I came down the stairs, and my father had a guest that day, and I love my father, may he rest in peace. And the guest is his friend from law school, who was the legal advisor of the GSS, the General Security Services, better known in the US as the Shin Bet, the Secret Service in Israel. And they were having a good time, and they were laughing and telling jokes, and I was joining them. I really wanted to be part of the action with the adults. And I realized they were joking about torture. And not torture as an idea, but a specific torture of specific people. And I think this was one of my first realizations that I lived in the state of apartheid. Some people's lives did not matter. So I'm telling you this story, it's just one thing. I didn't know much at 12, and then later I joined the military, you know. But I'm just telling you this thing to tell you that this is not because my father was an evil man. He was not. He is somebody who believed in justice, and he did good in the world. And the system is such that it creates these distortions. We also live in a distorted society here, which is so racist. You know, so compassion to all people, but hard lines when it comes to institutions. You know, total rejection of racism and apartheid. No way. And it's not okay to kill children. It is not okay that Israel doesn't let baby formula into Gaza Strip. Why? What's the justification for that? Yeah. So then there was a question about the Israeli economy. I wish I could answer this with a lot of knowledgeable blah. Israel is more or less a Western state. One of the engines of its growth is the high-tech industry. It has a thriving military industry. The high-tech and the military industries are intertwined. Many times, many successful Israeli companies are traded here in NASDAQ. So they are dually traded. So it's sometimes hard to tell which is an Israeli company, which is an American company. It doesn't export much apart from from that. I mean, there are some export areas, but not much. What else can I tell you?
Has it needed American money to keep going?
No. So Israel for decades now does not receive any financial aid from the outside, only military aid.
Now it doesn't.
No, it's for decades now. And I don't think they even need the military aid, to tell you the truth. They enjoy it. But if it stops tomorrow, they can still produce their own weapons very well. Israel's economy has been doing very poorly in the last 2 years. The war, what they call the war, which is not really a war because there is no anyone on the other side. I mean, seriously, I just read a report from soldiers, from Israeli soldiers, that in the last few months they haven't seen anyone with a gun in Gaza. So they're killing and killing and killing and killing, but they're not fighting anyone. Just know that this is not a war, yes? But it is very expensive to destroy all these houses. It's very expensive, and Israeli economy is not doing well. That's why they keep issuing more war bonds to collect money from abroad. And then there was another question. Iran and Syria. Oh my goodness. Iran and Syria. I don't know. I mean, seriously. Yeah, each one is a completely different story. Yes, Syria is a country that was totally destroyed by the West, and Iran hasn't been destroyed, and it's still there, even though it's under severe sanctions and also a very repressive regime, and a very beautiful culture and society with many connections to Israeli Jews. I don't know if you know that. Many Jews came from Iran. Some of my good friends in the movement are Iranian Jews. So none of it is like bad or good. You know, it's human. It's complicated. I'm sorry I cannot give you like a more informed answer.
Dov, there's a man here in the front row. Yes.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
So I want to say three things.
So can I get the mic?
Iran, that's number one. Thank you for saying that.
The mic has to be near your face.
Iran is the supreme enemy in the Middle East. Second thing, the solution is a two-state solution.
Yeah.
You didn't say anything about a two-state solution. We need a two-state solution. And the third thing is Netanyahu. He's a terrible person. He's just fighting for his own benefits. He's facing corruption charges. He's a bad guy. He should go.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. I'll get a couple more questions, if that's okay. We've got like 5 minutes
Okay,
left.
when you hold the mic, hold it like an ice cream cone, like that.
That's it. Somebody back here, how do you?
I just want...
Quickly.
Yeah.
I want to talk about how your movement ties into eliminating the military occupation since the 1967 war and all the damage there. Are you tied in any way? Thank you.
Uh-huh. Yes.
Thank you.
Hold it close.
Okay. As far as our society and the horrors of what you described going on there, right now, as we sit here,
Hold it close.
our entire country is covered in concentration camps.
Yeah.
Are you people aware of that?
Yes.
Our government is financing, manning these camps. Did you ever think you would grow up in a society covered with concentration camps? That we have the money? Why are we doing this? People live in fear in this country of being picked up. I went shopping the other day, and I was in a produce department, and I bought a bunch of food, and then I looked at watermelons and melons, and they look like crap. And I thought, what's going on? The farms in our country are not being picked. People are afraid of all color, of going out and working. I went to a rally this weekend at the Gibbon...
Question. Push out Israel. Genocide. And 67 more.
Okay, that's a very good statement. Thank you. That's very good.
I just want to say something now about the time. We try to end at 5:30. So if anyone feels like they need to leave now, please get up quietly and go out the back. How much longer do you want to go? Another 15 minutes, maybe? I don't know how long we have the room, because there may be another group coming in. So why don't we shoot for ending it at 5:45?
That's good, thank you, Bruce. Do you want more questions?
No, that's a lot.
We've got some other people here. And over here.
The last speaker, what is your name?
Christine?
No, behind you?
Karen.
Karen. Thank you so much, Karen. Thank you so much, people leaving. I don't want you to feel like you are leaving in the middle. I appreciate you. Thank you. You are absolutely right. It's the same corporations, it's the same technologies, it's the same ideologies, and sometimes it's the same individuals. You'll be surprised. Benjamin Netanyahu is one of these individuals, and him and his father were part of the neoliberal, conservative Republicans in this country. You know he's an American, yes? And they were part of the same think tanks that created things like the Heritage Institute and the blueprint for a new America that we are now exposed to. It's the same mindset that represents large business and military and energy companies, that preserves the self-interest of these elites and that doesn't care about human lives. Doesn't. And it has a different manifestation here than it is in Israel, but it is the same people. And in fact, you should know, many times Jews in the United States are seen as the largest supporters of the Israeli policies and Zionism, but Jews in the United States is a very small minority. And they are very much divided on Palestine, as you saw over the last 2 years. Evangelical Christians are not. And they are not a small minority. They are a very large minority and very powerful and rich minority. And they are the largest supporter of the Benjamin Netanyahu regime in Israel.
Yes.
And they don't care about Palestinians. They don't even care about Jews. So it's very daunting to see that happening around us. And what it means for us, is that we absolutely need to understand these connections in order to create new visions and new technologies of response. And when I see Israelis finally waking up to protest against the genocide, and I've seen it in the last few weeks. You know, there were always Israelis protesting against the genocide from the start, but there were a very small number of people, very marginalized, very silenced. But now I see it reaching the mainstream. You know, yesterday I saw someone disrupting live reality television, the Big Brother reality show. 4 young women got on stage in live, primetime television to say stop the genocide.
Wow.
There was a man yesterday that spray painted graffiti on the Wailing Wall in Jerusalem. And the graffiti says there is a Holocaust in Gaza, using the Hebrew word Shoah, the Jewish Holocaust. And he was put in a mental hospital, by the way. So I see that now every hour. There's actions it's growing. There is finally some realization of what's happening, and it's coming. So I'm saying there is protests here that are taking up there. There are protests there that are taking up here. We're part of the same network we're part of the same fabric. Thank you very much. And we need a joint vision as well of how to rise up to that the right wing that is actually very calculated. They have a very clear plan. We know what it is, but we don't have the counter plan. So I just want to put it out there. It's obvious. We all know that, something like that. Somebody asked about Occupation 67, of course. And it relates to also one of your questions about 2 states, 1 state. I don't like states.
I don't like that military.
I don't like states, and I don't have enemies. Apropos Iran being the big enemy, I don't see Iran as the enemy. I don't have enemies. I work for the Quakers, and I'm a Buddhist Jewish person. I don't have enemies. But states are machineries. You know, they are solutions to problems. They are not values. They are not important. They can solve problems, and sometimes they can create problems. For a long time, I thought Israelis and Palestinians can live together, just like they live inside the state of Israel, but maybe with equality. That would be better. You know, with full democracy. That would be really nice. Obviously, Palestinians need something of their own, because otherwise Israelis take over. So, of course, we need a Palestinian state. How to work through that? People can come up with amazing solutions. You know, they put such ingenuity into devising new high-tech weapons and bombs. If we put a fraction of that ingenuity into finding solutions, I know we will find them. We always do. I have full confidence. We just need the conditions for that.
Can you talk about what the U.S. strategic interest is in Israel? I've never understood that.
I never understood it either. I mean, people, what? Leave us the hell alone so we can solve stuff. Okay. I think I am with you. I don't get it. And I have colleagues who've worked in this, on this for many decades and work on the Hill and work with Congress people, and I asked them the same question. I said, why? And the answers are, you know, multifaceted. There are some economic interests, there are some political interests, there are these religious connections. The religious connections are through the evangelical Christians who believe in the second coming of Christ after Armageddon and all that. It's just like an interesting congruence of interests that has worked like that. It connects very well with some ideas that Americans have about America. You know, their exceptionalism and the colonialists' vision of going to settle the wilderness and taming the natives. I don't know. Something like that. I always say I'm not an American, you explain that to me, but actually it's been 2 months now since I got American citizenship, so I cannot say that anymore. So now I have a second citizenship that I'm ashamed of. This is so fun.
You're not alone, you're not alone.
Hi, my name is Dory.
Okay, just
Oh,
a minute.
can't hear you.
She doesn't have a mic.
Hi, my name is Dory, and I would like to know what sources we can use in the English language to find out what you are finding out about what's happening in Israel-Palestine. I'm sure you're reading Hebrew language press and online sources and maybe even Arabic, but is there anything in English that we can access?
Democracy Now! 972 magazine. It's a good magazine that is published in Israel. Follow online in all the social media lines Palestinians living in Palestine, in Gaza. They are posting about their experience every day. You can follow them. All of these, you know, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, they have automatic translation if it's in Arabic, and you can find good enough translation. It's quite easy. You can hear from them directly. There is also something called, what is it called? The Daily Brief, and it's under a website called Mr. Klim. I can write it for you later. And I've been following it for years. It's a group project of some volunteers who put together daily reports from what's happening in Gaza and the West Bank from social media and bringing it to Hebrew and to English for all of us to read. Gray Zone, okay? So, you know, you can ask everybody here, what are they reading? For sure, there is a lot out there. Al Jazeera is a really good resource. Despite the fact that Israel has been systematically assassinating all of their reporters in Gaza and in the West Bank, actually.
Are there other questions?
I have an answer to that.
But maybe questions first for people who haven't spoken.
Just one answer.
Well,
you can see a lot of everything she's talked about in one movie called No Other Land.
Yes.
Yeah. That will tell
We showed it.
We showed it. We showed it.
Yeah, it's a great film.
Okay.
Hi, thank you so much. My name is Sue. I'm curious as to how you moved from being in the Army to where you are. Like, what was the awakening?
Thank you, Sue. I want to tell you that many times I've been doing rounds and speaking for many years, and it's so interesting to me that it used to be the first question, and now it's not that interesting because I think people have heard and seen many more people, so they know that each of us have a different journey. You know, what brought you to your political realization? What brought you? What brought you? In my personal story, for me specifically, it was coming out as a queer person, because there is a moment where you have to kind of question everything you've been told about who you are and where you lived. So it allows you great freedom to ask questions. And then I became a feminist activist in Israel in the 90s, and I worked with Palestinian women. And I just worked with Palestinian women, and I suddenly saw that everything I thought about where I lived is just not true. So any of you who did any kind of anti-racist work probably had a similar awakening.
Really quick, my name is Claudia. I just saw an hour and a half with Tucker Carlson interviewing a woman living in the West Bank who is a Greek-American nun. And she described what it was like to be in the West Bank right now and about her friends in Gaza. There's a lot of information about what's really going on, and this Tucker interview, just very recent, yesterday, is very illuminating and current.
Thank you. Any other thoughts or questions? Okay.
Yeah, my name's Jim. It seems to me a fundamental misunderstanding is that I don't see what's going on there as a war. Gaza's a fully enclosed, sealed refugee camp. No one gets in or out. And, you know, it's to call that a war. And I mean, there may be resistance within Gaza. I mean, anytime a foreign country occupies some other land, there's going to be people that resist that occupation. But it's just not a war. It's a siege and an assault and then
a massacre.
Yeah, and a massacre. And I think also that, I mean, the project of Israel has always been, you know, a land without a people for a people without a land. And ethnic cleansing, either by killing people or by humiliating them to force them to leave, has always been the project for 75 years, and that's what's going on now.
Thank you. Yeah, I have nothing to say to that. That's absolutely true. There were more hands here.
Very important source of legitimate information is the Israeli historian Ilan Pappé, who teaches at Exeter University in England. He's been here to the Bay Area in the last couple of times in the last few years. But if you really want to have a good analysis, he opened my eyes to, I grew up a Zionist, he opened my eyes to things that I just assumed were true. And it's good to know what the truth really is. And he's not welcome in Israel, by the way.
I want to say something to that, if I may. I love Ilan Pappé, and I know that the previous meeting of this group was a prominent Palestinian professor who spoke very well. And I want to say that for many years I felt like I have a job to go out there and speak because I have the Israeli Jewish voice, and many people will listen to me while they didn't listen to Palestinians. And I think we're beyond that. And I think that as part of our resistance to settler colonialism and racism, we need to center Palestinian voices as much as possible. And that extra oomph that comes to somebody speaking as an Israeli or as a Jew is racist. I'm not saying you are, I'm just saying this is part of the history of what I've been doing over all these years. And I'm glad that this group is, but I also heard this group saying, oh, we were started by two Jewish. Sometimes we always need this Jewish voice to justify what we're doing. Saying it's not really anti-Semitism, we're not really hating Jews, it's perfectly okay. And I want to say to that, let's move beyond that. There is real anti-Semitism out there. You can recognize it if you hear hatred. If you see people coming out of love and care for fellow human beings, that's not anti-Semitism. It's as simple as that.
Well, you already know my name, but I'm Palestinian. And to answer the question of why does America support Israel so much, I just want to say from my perspective, I think one of the things is our narrative is never told, until recently, right? I remember my parents, I was in a little town called Coshocton, Ohio, before I moved to Palestine. They loved Peter Jennings. I'm sure you guys remember Peter Jennings. And when I got a little older, I asked them why. Because he said Palestine. Nobody ever used Palestine. Imagine, how pathetic is that? They loved him because he said Palestine. They had never heard Palestine before. So I think part of the reason for regular Americans supporting Israel is they only heard one narrative.
No, I was going to say we're about out of time, so I don't know if you want to take one last question.
Okay, one last question. Oh, here is a I wanted to take the mic. Well,
I kind of wanted to disagree with you that people who are Jewish, I'm Jewish, shouldn't come out as being Jewish. Because when I wear no Jews, not in my name, ceasefire, Jews say ceasefire now, and I've been at protests. Palestinian people feel very, very thankful about that. And I think that that's a visual thing that I've actually had a man come over and just stare at me with a big smile, and I couldn't understand this tall guy just staring at me there, and he just says thank you, and it made tears come to my eyes. So I think that there's a place for being who you are, which is, if you are Jewish, I'm not religious, but I was born to two Jewish people. So that I just want to say I disagree.
Thank you. What is your name?
Karen.
Thank you so much, Karen. So I think this is a good place to stop the questions, and I just want to say I agree with you. I'm sorry that I was too simplistic in what I said earlier. I do think that people should be speaking as Jews. What I was trying to say is that for the last 20 years, doing the job I've been doing, I've been asking endowments and churches to divest for Palestinian rights, and more so in the last 2 years. And there's a lot of pressure, asking cities to divest, asking, and usually what we get in response is, oh, we need the Jewish voice here because otherwise this is anti-Jewish, and this is hateful, and it's divisive for our community. And that is what I was reacting to. It is not true. It's not that Christians or non-Jews or white Americans need the legitimacy of the Jewish voice in order to take action. They have to take action because America is paying for it and supporting it, and they have their own story to tell here. And they don't need the legitimacy of the Jewish voice. It's nice to have it, and it's powerful to have it, but it cannot be that we should be led by some Jewish voice to do what we need to do in order to free Palestine. I think that is what's held us back for so long. It's no longer the case. We have to understand that the leaders of the Palestinian movement for Palestinian liberation are Palestinians, and they get to tell their stories without us.
Dov, thank you so much. What you just heard is pretty extraordinary. The whole thing was pretty extraordinary. And by way of saying thank you, here is cash for $569 and a check for $50 to the AFSC.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for coming.